Welcome, everybody, to Midday Magazine for this October 4th, 2024. I have your host, James J. Malouf here. In part 2 today at 4:30, we're going to welcome in some friends of ours from the Miss Wisconsin Rapids 2025 and Miss Wisconsin Rapids Teen 2025 contestants. Looking forward to talking with them. Right now, though, in studio with us, our good friend, Wisconsin State Representative Scott Krug, representing District 72. Scott, good to have you with us.
Did you say October already?
Yeah.
Wow,
it blew me.
man.
It actually took me a second to remember that it's October. I almost said September there.
When I finally started hearing weather reports saying it wasn't 80 degrees anymore, I was starting to think, I was getting a little thankful, actually. So,
yeah.
It's fine now, so...
Got a couple of things I want to get into with you, Scott, but I actually have been working on something for a little while now, a story, if you will, but a segment that I really wanted to do, focusing on attack ads.
Okay.
And I saved this to talk about with you, in part, not just because of your position, but because of your schooling, that brain of yours. I like to, over the years, I like to use, take advantage of that whenever I can.
Yeah.
Right. I appreciate the political mind that you have, but also the schooling that you have done on this subject. And so when it comes to something like this, I know that you are going to approach it like you do with anything in a purple matter. And that's part of where I wanted to go with this. I want to talk about with Senator Testin and certainly our listeners too, because we are being bombarded by attack ads.
Sure. Yeah.
And this has existed since we were kids. But we've never seen it like this before, where not only do we have the amount of attack ads we're having, but we are getting attack ads from a lot of places that are not coming from these politicians themselves.
Oh, yeah. Right, yeah. Dark money and AI generated and everything else. It is a whole different world.
And my major, one of the major things I want to come across with this is I am not pointing at either side because both parties are guilty of this, in part because this dark money, this AI stuff doesn't have a political affiliation. All they're looking for is chaos. All they're looking for is division.
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple of stats that I thought were quite impressive about attack ads. The amount of, and you can look these up yourselves and everything. The one of the most staggering things to me is that 83 to 85% of attack ads have no effect.
Right.
None.
Yeah. Right.
They don't change anybody's opinion.
It's changed a lot over the last 2 decades.
It
used to work.
Yeah.
Right.
And one of the interesting things is, I think, in order to understand anything, I think you have to look at the history of that.
Yeah.
And this starts, like a lot of things do, with attack ads of advertising. The Ragu company did this back in the 90s, where they went after each other, the Ragu and the other. And what they found was, whether it was that or it was Pepsi and Coke or any of these things, all the attack ads did was bring down both companies.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It didn't help either side. It just hurt the whole industry. Because even if you were a fan of Coke and you heard them talking trash about Pepsi, it reminded you of things that you might not like about Coca-Cola.
Sure. Right.
And it tied into that. It had an opposite effect. Yeah. And we are seeing the same thing politically, where you see an attack ad for a Democratic or Republican representative, and we're seeing people, if they are being swayed by it, they're being swayed in a different way.
My 10-year-old is a great example. Like, Jack will see these on TV, and Jack is like politically tuned in at this point because he's lived his whole life, literally. So he'll see an attack ad come on, and he will just turn on whoever that person was that put the ad out. He's like, "Oh, this is ridiculous." I'm like, "Okay, tell me why." So we have this conversation with Jack all the time. Like, why do you have an issue with that? Well, why are they talking about that instead of talking about what they can do? Like, instead of being positive. I'm like, and that is the one thing my wife has told me from the beginning. Is like, if you ever go there, we're done. Like, you're not going to be able to do this anymore. You don't have my support.
That's awesome.
So we had that come up this week where one of the candidates in Adams County had just stuck a yard sign in our yard without asking, just because I had other signs in my yard, right?
Wow.
I know, that was kind of, tacky.
Yeah.
And it was a sign that said something about Trump good something, Kamala bad something. Mm-hmm. My wife went through the roof. I mean, she went out, she ripped this sign out of the yard, started yelling at me. I'm like, I didn't put it there. It wasn't me. But it is. I mean, that's a mantra that we've had in every campaign I've had, is like, just talk about the good you can accomplish instead of the bad that somebody else might stand for. So, I mean, we have this conversation all the time besides your project, is people really buy in better now to a positive message. The world has changed dramatically. When we're talking about mental health days and safe spaces and all these things, why would somebody want to, put out negative ads at this point?
Yeah.
The whole world is focused on mental health and stability and happiness, so let's just focus on that.
The majority of these attack ads, the overwhelming majority of them, are coming from either overseas or they're coming from ghost areas that we cannot find exactly where they are. And they oftentimes, the majority of them, where they used to be, I'm so-and-so and I prove this message. You're not hearing that.
Yeah, now it's sponsored by Alphabet Soup, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, right. Yeah,
right.
Like, oh, God, okay, right.
So I bring this up because, the overall theme, I think, of our conversation today is integrity and being able to trust this process. We're going to get into a couple of things that involve that. And this is another one of those where we're seeing from the stats, we're seeing from surveys, not only are the country tired of division, but they're also tired of not being answered. Mm-hmm. To your point, as far as you ask a politician nowadays, and this is, again, Republican and Democrat, both parties are guilty of this. Hey, where do you stand on this issue? Well, my opponent...
I was raised in a middle-class family.
Right. And it's
right.
like, no, just answer the question.
And you saw that with J.D. Vance and Tim Walz in their debate. It literally went back to that, where even J.D. Vance, who wanted to go back and answer something from before, said, hey, I will get to your question in a minute. Like, anything that happened in that debate was the example of what should have happened in the presidential debates.
Agreed.
Right? I mean, JD and Tim had an incredible conversation. Mm-hmm. They nodded at each other's good points, and they didn't make strange faces at each other or laugh or guffaw or anything like that. And it was so adult. It was so refreshing. It was so everything that I am into in politics. And every conversation I've had with people about presidential politics this week is like, hey, did you see the vice presidential debate? Mm-hmm. Like, I could vote for either one of those guys for president, and I'm not a Democrat. Like, Tim Walz has done some things that I just will never agree with, but at least he had some common sense, decent, responses to some things. I'm like, all right, so yeah, I mean, going back to the first part of this question is, the negativity doesn't work, and we saw a great example on the highest scale of positivity and conversation and collaboration and discussion, and it paid off in droves because now everybody's looking at policy debate in the presidential election versus just personality debate, which has turned into the last 8 years. So
I wonder, and this is rhetorical, and not put on you or even the audience, but I do wonder if we're going to get to a point where we have to get rid of attack ads. We have to do something on that front where we just look. We're done with this. No more of this, and especially from outside sources, as we are looking for more and more ways to solidify and encourage integrity out of our audience, our community, our constituents. Right. I think that this is becoming more and more important. There are a lot of people that are going to scream at their radio right now, you got to get the money out of politics. That ain't happening.
No.
You're not going to see that happen.
It can't. Literally, you can't. There's no other way to get the message out besides paying for it. Like, I can knock on doors until I'm blue in the face, but I'm not going to knock on 60,000 doors in Wood, Adams, and Juneau County in 6 months. Like, I literally can't. No. Right? So the money's always going to be there. It's just a matter of how we balance the First Amendment rights of people that want to speak versus the better good of the society that shouldn't have to hear garbage, right? So we try to make sure people are educated. And
if I was an attorney, if I'm Jack McCoy in that situation and I'm fighting against that or something, my number one thing is you can't yell fire in a building. Yeah, you can't just yell fire and have no accountability. I think that we're seeing a very similar thing with these attack ads that, and we're seeing maybe just as importantly as that, society pushing against those and be like, no, we don't want this.
I think tie it up for you is George Washington saw it coming. From the time he took the presidency on to the time he retired from the presidency, he knew that this two-party system was going to lead to this. He literally did. I mean, and the way that the founders set up the presidency was to have the winner be the president, the runner-up in the Electoral College be the vice president. And it was changed by Congress 20 years into party politics where they just said, well, the winner is going to be able to pick who the vice president is now, too. So, I mean, you go back in history, and you could see from our founding that we knew this was going to happen if we let it happen.
Do you think we should go back to that? Because I do.
It would be.
I think it'd be very interesting.
It would be. There would be a lot. Yeah, there would be a lot more argument on Twitter and Facebook and press releases if we had opposing president and vice president. But if the vice presidency had any power whatsoever, that would be more interesting than it does because the vice presidency doesn't have a lot that it can do. So I try not to put too much history on it, but we knew it was coming.
Yeah. And this is part of the reason why it's good to look into your history about these things. Scott, for the audience, we mentioned that you're a representative of District 72. You have a couple of other positions that you hold as well. One of those is certainly voter integrity and voting integrity and making sure that our elections are strong, safe, and something that us as voters can believe in. This is something that you have championed for a long time, even before you were in a chair position like you are now and everything. What is your specific title with that?
So I am the chairman of the Assembly Campaigns and Elections Committee. So at this point, and I've stolen this power from the Senate, I am the figurehead. Like, I am the guy that I want all the complaints to come to. I want to be the referee. I want to be the arbitrator. Like, I want to take all of this rhetoric out of all this stuff and just give the common sense answers, whether it was the duplicate ballots that were sent out in Madison, whether it's the Dropbox issue in Wausau, whether it's the RNC letter that came out saying that dead people are getting absentee ballots. I am this guy where I get to farm it back out and off the relationships I've built with clerks and everybody else in the state of Wisconsin, make a phone call and say, hey, what really happened? And then relay it back to the state of Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. Instead of arguing on Facebook, instead of arguing on Twitter, instead of arguing by press release, actually be able to talk to people because we built relationships and say, okay, what happened? And every single one of those instances that happened this week, easily explainable, and they have died down immediately instead of what happened 2 or 4 years ago where they become this massive mega explosion, right? So if you just take the heat out of this and just have conversations, remember that people make mistakes and that we are people and that there's reasons that we do these things, it has worked out miraculously just to be able to step in and say, okay, the adults in the room, let's just stop this craziness because we've got a really big policy discussion to have in the next 4 weeks.
Whenever I have a chance, I like to remind people that your political party is not your sports team.
Right.
You don't they shouldn't be treated that way. They shouldn't be looked at that way. That there is no true losing in politics because whatever the people decide is the right choice for the people. I don't believe you can win and lose in politics. I don't think that that's the case. There's just what the people decide. And I think that what you're talking about here is vital going forward because the only way to get rid of doubt is fact. The only way to reassure people is fact. And when you do a little digging, you find that every one of these scenarios you mentioned, human error oftentimes. And human beings are not perfect. Right. We realize
stupid choices, stupid decisions, missed button pushed on a computer. I mean, those are literally the things that happened this week.
Every person out there has made a mistake this week.
Right.
Like
literally,
some of these are just a little bit
They say it all
more
comes in threes, and it literally came in threes.
Yeah,
so this week has been a month for me. But, I mean, it's like... So I'll dive in a little bit, just a little more detail. Like the Dropbox issue in Wausau, right, where the mayor didn't feel that the Dropbox was secured enough, so he relocated within City Hall where it was secure. Stupid decision to put it on Facebook and dress up as a construction worker, pulling it into the office.
Yeah.
In the end, was it the right policy decision? Yeah, because the Dropbox has to be secured. If somebody's ballots were in there, anybody could have tied a rope to that darn thing and stole your ballot, and it could have gone anywhere in the state, right? Stupid to put it on Facebook and try to champion it that way. In the end, the Dropbox is back. There's discussions being had. It's going to have to go through City Council, which is where it should in every municipality because the Supreme Court did not put any guidelines in place that we should have been able to put in place. I wrote a bill to do it. Nobody wanted to do the bill either, right? So there's this big, wild discussion on Dropboxes. Both sides are right? I don't see a problem with the Dropbox because if it's secure and it's monitored and there's chain of custody, fine. But on the other side of it, if there's not a Dropbox, you all have one at the end of your driveway. That works too. Or you can take it to your clerk and just hand it to your clerk's office. So, I mean, there's both sides can be argued on that. This duplicate ballot thing in Madison where the city clerk mailed out 2,000 duplicate ballots across 10 wards because of a copy and error thing in an Excel spreadsheet. Great. People cannot vote twice in the state of Wisconsin. Let me repeat that for all you folks in the back. People cannot vote twice in the state of Wisconsin. When you put in your absentee ballot request, you send back your ballot, your name gets put into a poll book. When the ballot gets opened and processed, the name is entered into the poll book. If that second ballot shows up, guess what? The name's already in the poll book in that ward, is already haven't voted. Ballot 2 gets destroyed. The problem is, for those 2,000 people in Madison who got duplicate ballots, if they return both of them in the same envelope, neither one of those ballots count.
Right.
State law says they both come back. We can't use one of them. Right. So I think the clerk's mistake here is probably disenfranchising those people who think they can try to vote twice more than worrying that every one of them is going to vote twice. So, I mean, another stupid mistake, copy, error, and paste, but we called the city clerk. Senator Knodel and I wrote a letter to her. She responded right away. It was adult. We displayed the information back to the public. This is what happened. Here's what it is. Dead issue. Mm-hmm. The day after that, the RNC in West Palm Beach, Florida, sent a letter to the Wisconsin Elections Commission saying, hey, we have evidence that dead people got absentee ballots. Whew, okay, well, maybe you guys could have called me. I could tell you exactly how this works.
Right.
If you go on WisVote, you request an absentee ballot. If you say you did it in August and you wanted to request an absentee ballot for November, absentee ballots went out at the end of September. So if you died from the time that ballots went out September 17th till October 1st, yeah, you're a dead person who got an absentee ballot.
Yeah.
But guess what? The ballot's not going to count if it gets sent back in by somebody.
Right.
Because DHS and the Office of Vital Statistics keep WisVote up to date, and that's how RNC knew, is that they got the information straight from the Elections Commission that these people were already dead. We already knew they were dead. Like, they're not going to vote. So it's just taking 10 minutes to get these things figured out, to see a congressman in our state try to fuel the fire. Really got me upset. Whether Republican or Democrat, I didn't care. Because, okay, you, first of all, if you have a question, call the clerk, or if you have a question, call somebody and have a conversation. Don't just argue by Facebook or Twitter. Great friend of mine. He and I started serving together in 2010. I had to clap back a bit and just say, hey, this is too much. Like, just slow down. This is my sandbox. I'll help you if you need it. I know these people. Let's figure this out. That is exactly what I'm doing right now, is playing goalie for the next 4 weeks until Election Day, just to put out all these fires, stop these, you kick save this one out of here. And so by the time Election Day comes up, everybody can say it was free, fair, and safe.
Right.
Period. And I don't care who's trying to get in the way of that. I'm going to run them over because I can't have 2020 happen again.
And we appreciate that. We appreciate not only the work on that, but the bipartisan work on that, especially in this day and age, because this isn't rocket science. This is what the people want. Is that approach to these things and an adult way of handling these things. Yeah,
you'll see my yard sign not in so many of the yards anymore because of that, unfortunately. But I mean, my position is as safe as it can be. I'm not doing the campaign thing here, but it's not like I have a very contentious election, which even allows me to be even a bigger voice statewide and just say, hey, enough of the BS, because I took care of stuff at home. Now I can expand the field a little bit and just try to put out all these other things everywhere else.
It's a great article on WPR.org. I encourage you to check out with Scott.
Awful picture, though. So when you see the picture, just don't,
They could have had a better picture. Could have given a better picture. But I encourage people to check it out. It is a great conversation with you and Representative Tiffany talking about this. And one of the comments that came out of this, the dial back the rhetoric.
Yeah.
It really stood out to me. I made sure that my mom, who is a political mastermind too herself, made sure to read this article, because this is what we're looking for. This is what we need. We can discuss these things. We can get into things. We can get passionate about these things, but we can never stop the respect end of this or stop the factual part of this.
Right.
There is too much at stake for us to go down the route that we have done in previous elections.
Yeah. So I mean, anybody that's trying to plant the seeds of discontent right now, I am going through those same fields with some arsenic and just killing those seeds. I mean, it is just, it's time to stop. Like, I can't stress that enough, that people just do not want to go through that all over again and have this argument in presidential debates about, 2 months, like another January 6th election.
Right. Like, nobody benefits from that.
Right. The election was November. We don't need to be talking about what happens in January for inauguration, besides the fact that there was a peaceful transfer of power.
Right.
Period.
Scott, I want to remind people, too, that they can vote early and make sure that people are aware of that.
Yeah. I mean, Wisconsin is one of the most liberal states when it comes to voting early. And we do a great job monitoring it with WisVote and making sure that your vote counts. So the biggest story I can give people about that is, if you are tired about getting political texts, 8, 9, 10 a day, go vote early. Because every single one of these campaigns are buying these lists from the Wisconsin Elections Commission on voters. And those who are eligible voters and those who've already cast a vote. So if you go cast your vote early by going on to WisVote, requesting your absentee ballot, getting it in the mail, sending it back, either putting it in a drop box if there's a community that has one, or your mailbox, or take it to your clerk, you can get rid of every single one of those texts. You can get rid of junk phone calls.
Yeah.
You can save political campaigns that you support. You can save them money.
No, there
Cost
you go.
them 5 cents a text.
That's an interesting
You want to save
point.
your guys some money, go vote early.
That's a good point.
You can do it right now by requesting your absentee ballot on WisVote or from your clerk. You can vote 2 weeks in person early at your clerk's office. There's no reason that you can't vote early in the state of Wisconsin if you want to. Any municipality has that option right now. Today, you could vote early.
Get in on it, everybody. Get out there. Make sure your vote is heard. Be informed. Get out there and vote. We appreciate that. There is a phrase that I heard when I was a kid that they was involved in politics, but not solely about politics. But who watches the Watchmen?
Yeah.
It's a phrase that's been around in politics since the Roman era and everything. And it's something that pops in my mind this time of year, every 4 years. And I'm reminded that we are the ones that watch the Watchmen.
Right.
We, the people. And never forget that, everybody. Next time Scott and I get together in November, we're going to be talking a little bit about your career here a little bit. And going forward.
Yeah, talk about where it came from, where it's going, those types of things, because it's not always going to be the same. It just, after 16 years, it's time to start figuring out what the next step is. So
looking forward to that, man. And as always, appreciate the open, transparent conversation. Because we are friends, I did not bring up the Brewers.
Yeah,
but
I will. We talked about it off air before. I told you not.
I appreciate that.
Like I said, though, too, it's not the worst beat we've ever seen in Wisconsin sports history. The onside kick still takes the cake, but it was rough, man. I told Pam in the hallway, I said, my first marriage, I learned the lesson not to take sports too seriously. That's why I have a second marriage. Right? So I'm trying not to get back to that point where you get so involved in the sports that it's life, but it's still a tough one to swallow.
Like a lot of things in life, perspective goes a long way. Be thankful you didn't grow up on the south side of Chicago.
Oh,
like
yeah,
me,
right.
You're not a White Sox
you were
fan.
the first guy I thought of when they lost.
It could be a lot worse.
Right.
It could be a lot worse.
Right.
And you got some beautiful young pieces on that team, man.
Man,
you got some really fun players to look forward to.
Bring back Big Woo and Yelly next year, and I think you're good. I mean, I'm gonna. It sucks losing Adamas, but
yeah.
All right, we'll live. We'll move on.
And we'll
go
talk,
Pack, go.
We'll talk more soon. Thank you for the time, Scott.
Thank you.
We'll have more Midday Magazine coming up for you right here on 97.5 FM, 1320 AM, WFHR, locally grown radio.